a lot of the other presentations have already, stole my thunder, so to say. So seriously, no, I was expecting this. So when we were planning this event, the idea was also that, we would hear different companies talk about NFC. Definitely, one, handset manufacturer, device manufacturer like Nokia, and then a company like Kone, how they, think about NFC, and also from the public side of public sector, especially in city, in this case, Helsinki, and how they see it. IBM is a bit boring in that sense, right? Because we're a business-to-business company. We don't manufacture anything for consumers. So here's some really quickly some ideas how we see NFC. But I think Sike said it already well. The ecosystem of NFC business and technology, it can be very complex, right? You have the questions that who owns the customer, how do you share the revenue, do you partner alone, all the standards. So that makes this whole area a bit tricky. No company overview slides from me neither, as Siki also said. But if you would have to describe IBM, a huge company, 400,000 employees, with one word, it's basically an integrator. I think that's the theme from how I approached NFC, that you need somebody to do the dirty job, basically, on the back-end systems, to do the integration piece, to solve all these complex topics. Now the next slide may look scary, so don't be afraid. Events, different people will get different types of cards. And then it gets more complicated in the card itself, the chip infrastructure, the applications will change. So we heard already examples, for example, from Sike and Pekka. So a lot of complexity actually behind the scenes here. And I think this is very important what you guys have been doing with the NFC forum. Because there's so many different players there. And it is still very complex, but luckily now we are seeing that things will really move forward. So I already told you that we don't basically do anything with the NFC for ourselves and directly to our customers. Yes, that's a different story. So we basically help our customers, like in this case, McDonald's, Starbucks, when in their implementations of NFC. That's basically our role. But I basically close now with an idea of, could we somehow think of NFC beyond payment? I think Pekka already gave some really nice examples also from Kone, so I'm repeating maybe the message here. But many times, NFC is just linked always that you just touch the phone, you pay something, and it can be maybe more. Not telling you anything, how things will be, but maybe hopefully stimulate some ideas. We at IBM, we talk about something called a smarter planet. It is basically like a ubiquitous society type of a vision, and we talk about 3 I's: instrumented, interconnected, and intelligent. Okay, so on the first I, the instrumented piece, we know that the world around us is getting smarter, especially in buildings, in the city infrastructure. And why? Well, we're seeing this mass infusion of sensors and actuators more and more around us. And here, the NFC's role is obvious. NFC is definitely like an RFID, something that hopefully in the near future we will, not see just millions but billions. The second I, interconnected. About not just internet anymore, connecting people to each other. We're now talking about more and more things like machine-to-machine internet. So machines are starting to talk to each other. Or you might have heard this term of Internet of Things, which is a really related idea to the ubiquitous society design. And here also, if you think about NFC, we've heard examples that you touch your friend or you touch something. Maybe one can also think that is some sort of an interconnectedness, right? And the last I, intelligent. I think this is essentially about the explosion of data. We know that this is, the world is basically drowning in data, and the tricky question is now that how do you extract insight from all that data? And if you think about NFC, these different transactions in different services and between people, they are just generating more and more data. But it's really interesting data. You see the social connections of I touch something, my phone to Sike's phone. We're generating some data related to whatever the service is. But there's also the social network aspect. Personally, I see that this challenge really much raises the importance of mathematics. So now, since there are probably some students here also, statistics, probably the most boring subject ever, but for example, when I was in high school, I will argue that the person who studies statistics, text mining, and also some industry, they will be valuable as gold, and at least IBM will hire them, thousands of them in the future.
Or you can create startups based on that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a really, really good, so that we can buy the startups then.
Yes.
So okay. So this is the agenda. We see that the combination of these three different eyes can give us an opportunity to think and do things differently. And I think the NFC clearly is giving us an innovation challenge here. I'll close with an example, maybe just going a bit deeper here. But we recently announced something called Smarter Commerce, where we are looking at the whole domain of commerce from a point of view of how could it be smarter. You see there are some examples. Here, if we think about the role of commerce from all the way to the marketing, the demand generation, these browsing, all the way to selling and transaction part, whatever you're buying, and then to the actual fulfillment, the order processing, shipment stuff like that. There are actually many areas here where you can think of that the NFC has a role. I'm not going to go deeper there, but one can really see NFC having an impact in many of those places. IBM has been buying startups, a lot of the big companies with 14 billion in the last 2 years, billion not million, and we're being scaling. Here you see all the back-end stuff there. So we intend to play in this area, right? So I'll just close with. Basically try to maybe sum up what the others have said here is that we really believe that NFC is now ready for innovation and thus also ready for startups. Okay, any questions?
You showed there that you are managing, or that architecture picture that you show is about deploying the applications in the smart cards. What is the IBM view? Is more focused on the NFC in the payment, or these open NFC cases, or both?
Both. What the client wants. Any other?
How would you actually sort of compare the NFC to the, for example, barcodes or QR codes, which are also sort of ways to measure things or track things? So is NFC only cooler version of those two, or is it somehow radically different?
I think I'll answer that one so that once some guy asked senior IBM executive that, okay, IBM, now you're 100 years old. What will IBM be after the next 100 years? He was thinking he said, yeah, we will be doing the same thing we did 100 years back, which is basically solving clients' business problems by applying technology, and the how just changes. Okay, that actually now sounds like we're awful marketing pitch on IBM. We are recruiting, by the way. But still, I think the point is that NFC, we're technology agnostic in a way that we select the best technology that exists at the moment to solve a problem. Personally, I don't think 2D barcodes really hit off really well, and it's you can mention some problems at Pekka also there. But for example, in the hospitals, that was really interesting, and we have cases where, for example, it's not NFC, but it's a form of an active tag where we are, basically tracking patients and critical medical devices like MRI devices at where they are, and basically visualizing that in a 3D building map. That's already happening, and that is I really like the examples of yes, we should actually somehow reserve that elevator that no, if you're a healthy person you don't want to go there, right? Because there's a sick person there, and so I think it's a really nice way to look at the optimization, and maybe NFC can play a role there. Okay, long answer to your question.
I can I can answer to continue from that, because we're using 2D barcodes. I think NFC is in every sense better, but we use it as a roadmap to the NFC because there's more uses for that. We learn more, but NFC works better. There's some. I think there's at least one place where 2D this QR code is better. Is when you print yourself at home your ticket. So that kind of cases are the where it's really better. Yeah. Otherwise, always NFC is easier and more secure.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So you have talked about this IBM have a smart card management system. So does it also covers provisioning payment application to the device?
I believe so. Though I must, give a disclaimer that I'm not an expert in the smart card business at all. But that's how I've understood it. There are a handful of companies who can basically handle end-to-end, the whole thing, and IBM is one of them. I really think that we actually, I'm hearing that it resonates with the crowd and with the Aaltoes and venture trust that we somehow should speed up basically the adoption and hopefully also the startup creation by giving tags to the university community and let them innovate on that. It's not a question of money actually, but if they just don't exist somewhere easily, it will be slow.
Just a bit off topic, but I was just wondering, do you have any idea, is there any kind of standard for audio tags?
I don't know, but maybe these guys are.
What do you mean by audio tag?
Like if you could have like audio barcode, kind of, if you just record the kind of sound for some time, then you can get like web address or something from it.
I know that there are at least some research practice on like ultra high frequencies, but I'm not seen anything that would have been really like a viable solution, because there's always so much noise interfering with the sound.
Maybe this answers your question also. I've seen in IBM research a project where we had basically 2 RFID chips that had enough data that when you bought a phone close to it, it played a tune, a really simple 8-bit tune. I don't know if that answers the question, but you could put actually primitive music into the tags. In this case, 2 RFID.
I was just thinking, like in kind of shopping centers or stuff, you could probably broadcast kind of tags that people could then use the mobile phones to get the latest offers just by having the microphone on.
Shocking uses ultrasound or very high frequencies.
Okay, so this is good. We're now in the ideation phase. I think, Lauri, you want to say something to them for the close, but we'll be hanging out here and.
Yeah, absolutely. So no more questions.
I would like kind of like one small kind of like closing or final remark from my side at least, and I think that for all of you now who think about starting up your own companies and going into ventures and thinking of where, what should I do and so on. I think the most important thing for you in that moment is to be disruptive, to question old ways of how things have been done. Come up with new models, how wild they are, and no matter. And just kind of like innovate, and that means just think out of the box. There are no rules. Just kind of fly high. It's better to crash and burn than slowly fade away. So really, that's what a startup has to compete with: innovation and disruption. The business is already full with giants like IBM. And you have to outmaneuver them. And it's really difficult. The only way to do it is to be quick, innovative, disruptive.
All right, great. So probably at this point I would like to thank our great speakers and yeah.